The show was not created by a medical professional. It was done by one man and his guests on the show talking about their struggles with mental illness. If you are having thoughts of suicide or in a state of distress, reaching out is the first step towards safety. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255 or text TALK to 741-741 to text with a trained crisis counselor from the crisis text line for free 24/7. If you know someone who may be at risk or struggling with depression or anxiety or any mental health issues, please follow everything in the description below to help those that are in need. Life can be so very rough.
Sometimes I get sad. What do you do when you get sad?
This is Something Gives with Josh Ronquist, a show from the mind of someone dealing with mental health issues, wanting to talk about life, mental health, and music with musicians, fans, and those in the business.
I want to feel good about myself, and I don't know how.
How do you not be sad?
I'm here to spread the word, to talk about our struggles, and what we can do to get better.
I'm responsible for my own happiness. I can't even be responsible for my own breakfast.
While this show cannot cure any mental health issues, sometimes the mind just needs to not feel alone.
There's a lesson here for all of us.
So let's begin the show. Hey everybody, this is Josh Ronquist here with Something Gives with Josh Ronquist. And we are 4 episodes into this great look into my mental psyche, and hopefully in the future being able to look at others dealing with mental struggles themselves. But this week, I have to return it back to myself. While I thought with the last episode, being able to end on such a great positive note, that I would be somewhat in the clear for a while, and unfortunately, that's not the case right now. I should say that I am not at the bottom of the barrel yet. I am of a clear conscience. I am not thinking of any dark thoughts about harming myself, or anyone around me, or wishing that on anybody. But over the last couple weeks, I've been dealing with something that, unfortunately, all of us have to deal with at some point in life. The first one I'll be talking about is, unfortunately, a side effect of life: death. And the second one, which I'll get into once we get to that point, suicide. Let's get into the first one as we might as well. It's also in chronological order, so roughly 2 weeks ago today, as you're hearing this, although it'll be 12 days for me, as I didn't find out until 2 days after the fact, a really good friend of mine passed away at the very, very young age of 31. Won't give his last name, but his first name is Mike. And even now, I'm still not entirely sure what happened. From what I understand, he was found at home, listening to music on his phone, and he had already passed. It didn't, from what I understand, didn't look like it was a side effect of suicide or any mental health issues. It might have been more physical, anything from a heart attack to illness to so many things it could be. But at the time, I do not currently know what it is. This one particularly hurts me a lot. I've known this guy for pretty close to a decade, right around. We knew each other from a great internet forum that used to be around, used to be able to talk music on there all the time, and unfortunately, due to the rise of social media, a lot of forums are gone now. Just like every single time that I tried to put up a forum, it just stopped. Although it never really caught on because of social media, but sometimes there were some great discussions, but it just never really caught on. But there was several places that I was able to go to online. One for being able to discover music, to be able to talk about music, and of course talk about other things in life. That was my home away from home in a lot of places. Between all the different forums that I used to visit, talking drums, music, TV, movies, life, all these great things. And while social media makes that vastly, vastly easier, those that were around for the time of forums really do miss it. And pretty much the closest thing you have to that right now is something like Reddit, although that's not really my bag, so I just haven't really tried it, and I haven't really felt the need to try Reddit out, but that's besides the point. Getting back on track, I met him from there, became friends because we had so much similar taste in music. Basically every single thing that Dan Swano has put out, we've been both the most gigantic fans of his work. He was also an even bigger Mortal Kombat fan than myself, which, growing up where I did, I didn't think that was possible, but he was the biggest Mortal Kombat fan I could ever think of. And anyone that's listening to this knows that Mike was a huge fan of the 70,000 Tons of Metal Cruise and went every single year. And for a lot of people, that's the last time they got to see him was back in January or February, or, well, the 2019 edition of the 70,000 Tons of Metal Cruise. And unfortunately for me, we had a bit of a falling out towards the end of the year, beginning of this year. And by falling out, I do mean that he blocked me on social media because of the struggles that I was going through, and I didn't know why. And then about 2 months ago, roughly, maybe 2.5 months ago, he got back to me, unblocked me, and wrote up this gigantic apology letter, talking about how he was going through some personal stuff as well, but he apparently wrote me this big long message, and I wasn't able to see it because he blocked me, but he was saying that he couldn't be friends with me if I decided to take my own life, and that really shook me to the core. In a way I did not even think was possible, but he did write me a gigantic apology letter, which I could not be more grateful for, because we did end things on such amazing terms. It's not the way that I wanted things to end, although I did want them to end greatly. I want him to still be here. Like, the last conversation we had was about the upcoming game Mortal Kombat 11, which is coming out at the end of the month. And he already bought the biggest collector's edition of Mortal Kombat 11, which gave you a beta test to be able to try out Mortal Kombat 11, which a lot of games do that now. If there's actually problems to fix with betas, like their actual intended purposes, I have zero problem with it. If it's just to release the game early, I do have a problem with it. And another thing that I have a problem with when it comes to modern fighting games is that they do try to nickel and dime you a lot. If you want particular characters, if you want particular moves, you want particular outfits, arenas, blah blah blah, you gotta pay X amount of money, which is just not fair. But I was still gonna pick up the base version of Mortal Kombat 11 and hopefully play with him coming up at the end of the month. And the biggest reason I bring up the Mortal Kombat 11 thing is the day the beta went live is the day that I found out that he passed on, when a lot of us found out that he passed on. It was actually his sister that reported it online that Mike was no longer with us, and it was a shock to the system for everyone that was a friend of his, family, and everyone that went to 70,000 Tons and all of that. And it's just been really hitting me so hard, because we were a lot alike in a lot of ways. Similar height, similar weight, similar love of music, similar love of gaming, trying to be as good-hearted as possible, so many of these different things. And he was only 10 months older than me, and that's really hit me very hard, because if you don't choose to take your life, which should not be your option, if you don't choose to take your life, you don't know when life is going to end. It could be a terminal illness. You could get hit by an automobile. You could get hit with a stray bullet. You could die of natural causes. It could be another disease. It could be heart failure. It could be your body just shutting down. It could be a total and complete accident. It could be a malicious murder. It could be war. It could be so many different ways. And it does not matter how old you are. how you've lived your life, what kind of person you are, what you still have left to do in your life. When death comes collecting, we can try to fight it the best we can, but in the end, it's always going to come for us. And with that was just a complete shock to the system for me. And I will say, again, I'm so gracious for the fact that we did have the end of our knowing of each other to end on such good terms. I would have felt so much worse if there were still problems going on between us, and I'm so glad that was not the case. But with that, it just pains me so much to know that he's not here anymore. He never even got to try out Mortal Kombat 11, the one thing that he was looking forward to most this year. So when I'm going to play Mortal Kombat 11, it's going to be really hard for me not to tear up. Because I know how much that meant to him, I know how much fun we were going to play against each other, and despite it hopefully being a great game, it really hurts me knowing that he's not going to play it, he's not going to hear any future music from anyone, not any Dance Mono projects, not any band, not anything. He's not going to be on 70,000 Tons of Metal anymore. He's not here anymore. And it was another wake-up call for me, as if I didn't need it. Much like I ended the last show, I want to be able to live the best life that I possibly can, from here until I'm no longer here. I don't want to end life miserable. I want to be happy. I want to be as happy as I can possibly be, and of course, there's no way to be happy 100% of the time. Life is going to get you down. There's always going to be problems that arise. But it's trying to have that positive outlook on life, knowing that there is another side, if you can reach it to that other side, and life can get better. But just in case there is something beyond this life, if there's any way that he's able to check this out, if there's any way that he can listen in on me, just in case there's anything on the other side, Mike, you were one hell of an awesome guy, and I'm so disappointed that we never actually got to hang out. I know there was talks of you coming up here to Minnesota for an Electric Six show at First Avenue many years back that you were unfortunately unable to make it to. But if there is anything on the other side, which of this potentially two-way conversation only one of us is fully aware of right now, I hope I can see you again. I hope we can play some Mortal Kombat against each other on the other side, listen to some Dance Mono music, and just catch up on old times. But until then, Mike, rest in peace. Which, unfortunately, brings me to the second part of my show today. Potentially a shorter show than what you're used to, but I wanted to get this up as I'm thinking about it, and that's the thought of suicide. Now, again, I must stress this. I'm actually, despite everything, doing okay. For once, while I'm recording the show, I don't have any bad thoughts going on in my head. I don't feel like the world would be a better place without me. As of right now, I don't feel like I'm a burden to anyone that's important in my life, and I'm just trying to keep it on. But earlier today, as of Sunday, a long-lost friend of mine got a hold of me. Now, this is going to require some backstory. Now, there may be some people who are aware of this person, but for those not to know, and because of the situation that's going on, I'm not going to call him by his real name. For the purposes of this story, I'm going to call him Melvin. Growing up as a teenager in Clear Lake, Wisconsin, which, if you need to catch up, please check out the very first episode of Something Gives to get the full backstory, for the most part, of my life. But anyways, growing up as a teenager in Clear Lake, Wisconsin, I did not have friends. I had some acquaintances, I had some people that didn't mind being around me, I had some people I've even hung out with a few times. But I really wouldn't say that I had friends. Be it my fault, be it people just weren't interested in actually being a friend of mine, whatever the case is, that's in the past. But once I got older, I did actually meet one of the best people in my life, Melvin. I met Melvin playing drums. He played bass, for the most part. He also played some guitar, and he sang. We met at the local music shop that I worked at the time. And we got together and we got along so very well instantly. We came from similar backstories, his more tragic in some ways, mine more tragic in some ways. Everybody's life is different, it is so hard to compare, but there was a lot of similarities. Lots of similarities in music, what we wanted to accomplish in life, what we enjoyed, so many things. And we formed a band, and at the time it was just bass, drums, and vocals. We recorded a couple songs together. It was a lot of fun, and in the midst of that time, we hung out pretty much every day, whenever we could. And even for a few months, him and his girlfriend moved in with me and my family. And it ended under bad circumstances, and he left. And we hung out somewhat after that, many times actually, but not as often as we did before. And his life, of course, had many struggles going on, even with me around. And we eventually just kept losing touch for various reasons, some of which I'll get into a little bit later. But at one point, he had moved on to California, and I didn't even know that he moved. I found out well later, which broke my heart, because even though we didn't hang out as much together, he was the best friend that I ever had. The best friend I ever had that I'd never had a romantic or sexual relationship with. Let's put it that way. And one day, he was gone, and it hurt. But I eventually got over it, but not too long after he moved, I came across one of his, well, I can say on again, off again, sex buddies. Let's just call it that. And she informed me that Melvin killed himself in California, and I was absolutely blown away. I was left cold. I did not know how to feel, and it was overcoming my system. It felt like the soul was taken out of me. Now, to pile onto that, I found out from her that he killed himself because of people like myself, saying that I wasn't there enough for him. I didn't care enough about him, didn't try to stop him, even though I was 2 time zones away, and I no longer had any contact info for him. We weren't even Facebook friends at the time. I mean, then again, right around that time, Facebook was brand new to me and a lot of people. There was no way I could have stopped that, and for the longest time, I did believe it was my fault. I thought it was 100% my fault. And that's another huge reason why I suffer so much from all these mental struggles, is because I had this burden for so very long that I hurt one of the greatest people that ever entered my life. A guy who liked me for me, liked what I was about because of who I was about, the potential that I had, everything I could be if people just cared about what I did and let me shine. And one of the greatest things that he ever gave me was not a physical thing. It was the ability to stand up for myself, which, against my brother, I needed so bad. And I needed that again many, many years later. If you go back to the very first episode of this show. And I apologize. And I never knew at the time that I could have confidence in myself. I didn't know I could stand up for myself. I didn't know I had it in me to be able to do that. Nor did I think I was worthy of such a thing. But he showed me that not only I could, I should. And I tried to apply that to so much of my life. I try to apply that to so much of my life now. So with all of that backstory in mind, let's skip ahead to just a couple years ago. I was meeting my dad back when we were on speaking terms. My girlfriend was with me, met my dad, and my dad, the Eeyore that he is, was sharing a lot of sad stories and everything, because that's what he does. He thinks that's what normal people talk about. Never anything good, just how terrible everything is, which it's hard not to apply that to my life sometimes, but since I am aware of it, I try to change it. But in the midst of this conversation, he told me, "Hey, did you hear that Melvin friended me on Facebook?" And my eyes almost burst out of my head. My heart almost exploded. I almost threw up. I did not know how to react. I asked him to repeat himself, and he said, "Yeah, Melvin friended me on Facebook. Yeah, you should talk to him too." I never told my dad about the previous story because, one, I didn't want to talk to him about such a thing and feeling like it was my fault. Two, if I did, I know he would have told my brother, who would use that as ammo against me to try to get me to kill myself, and use it every single time to try to get me to kill myself anytime we talk, which thankfully it's been over a year since I've heard that person's voice, and I couldn't be more thankful for that. But he just told me out of the blue that he was not only alive, but friended him on Facebook for some reason. Then, a day or two later, he friended me, and I felt like I saw a ghost. I didn't think it could possibly be real. For over a decade, I was under the impression he killed himself, and I did not know what to do. it just completely blew me away. And I kind of avoided talking to him. Even though I friended him, I avoided talking to him because I couldn't believe it was real. I literally couldn't believe it was real. I thought it was a fake account. I thought someone was pretending to be him, and I didn't want that a part of my life. I still can't believe it to this day. But as it turns out, when we had a bit of a discussion, and kind of similar to my story with Mike, Jason unfriended me for not talking to him. Which, under some circumstances, does make a lot of sense, because even though I've left a lot out of the story, there is the entire impression that he did just up and stop being my friend, abandoned me, stopped wanting anything to do with me, and some people would be forgiven to think that I did not forgive him. And of course, knowing the other part of the story, it's just still, even to this day, it is so hard for me to believe that he didn't kill himself. But we got back to talking again. I explained the story, which he couldn't believe that the person in question told me that's what happened, and it's not what happened. A short version is ever since I've known him, well before I knew him, and possibly even still now, I don't know that part of it. He's had an on-again, off-again relationship with the woman of his life and the woman of his 3 children, which I knew of one, but apparently they had 2 more together. And I got to learn a little bit more. And since we didn't even live in the same state anymore, we kinda kept in touch, but not really. The whole situation is just so completely bonkers. I'm sure if we were to have gotten together, things could have been different. Maybe if we'd gotten together sooner, we could have just laughed this all up over. We could have got back to old times and be the best of friends again. Now, flash forward, and as of the time of me talking, skip back about 9 hours. And he messaged me on Facebook, and I'm going to paraphrase the crap out of this, because I don't want to give personal information away. I am 100% paraphrasing with this, but you'll get the gist. Where he messaged me and said that he knows my struggles with mortality. He knows about this show, what I've done with my life, and how I continue to struggle. But because he loved me so much, like a brother, he was letting me know that he was ending it all. Which, this may be shocking to hear, but this is not the first time someone has come to me telling me that they were not just having suicidal thoughts, but that they were going to end it all. And they were looking for any reason to stay alive. And that is 100% what I tried to do. I didn't even think twice. I immediately tried to get a hold of him. And I'm writing back, we're having conversations back and forth. We're talking about the old days, we're talking about what's been going on lately. He constantly kept telling me about how much he loved me like a brother, how hurt he is by doing what he did to me, by abandoning me as a friend, as a brother, left my life, never tried to reach out to me. The whole thing about him trying to commit suicide in California, which again just blows my mind that was not the case. All of these things. And I've known him for a very long time. And I've always known him to have lots of struggles himself. And I know at least one time that he did at least set up trying to commit suicide while we were friends. And that hurt me so much at the time. And then, of course, the California story. And now hearing this. Of course, again, like I was talking about, we haven't been that close since we've gotten back in touch. Especially not like how it used to be. It feels like we have been more acquaintances than brothers. And he's just going off about how he can't take life anymore. He can't see how life is going to get better. And he felt like he needed to ask for my forgiveness for everything before he moves on. And the part that is just gripping my soul right now is when he said, "If you could please show up to my funeral, I know my spirit will be happy. It will finally be happy." And I knew right there, right then, I had to do something. And of course, my girlfriend with me at the time, we immediately sprung into action, called 911. And it wasn't long after that he stopped talking to me. He went offline. And I had no idea if he was setting himself up to kill himself. I had no idea what was going on, and I absolutely feared the most. And for several hours, tried calling 911, called my local police, tried calling his local police, trying to do a wellness check on him just to make sure that he was still around. And it goes into the very, very sad state that not everywhere in America are you able to get a hold of a police officer in every town on any day, because that's what happened. We kept getting voice answering machines, automated messages, all these things. Weren't able to get a hold of a real person to make sure that he was going to be okay. For all I know, he was going to end it all. For all I know, he did end it all right after he stopped talking to me and said goodbye. Which, I didn't think we were done talking. He just said, "Goodbye, I love you." And I did everything I could. I just tried messaging him back, and of course he wasn't online, so I don't know if I was just talking to dead air or what was going on. And of course with 911, getting hold of police officers, everything like that, just kept trying. And then after a couple hours, there wasn't a point anymore, and I stopped. And I don't know what's happened. As of me recording this, I don't know if he's alive. I'm actually gonna check my phone again, just on the off chance that he might be still around and he saw my last messages. And he did. All right. He did see my last message, which was several hours ago, but he did see it. I have no idea if he's in the condition to talk. I have no idea if he actually attempted it again tonight. I don't know. He's offline. And this is just hurting me in a way that no one should have to experience. And what really, really hurts for me right now, as I'm thinking about this, not only did I experience this already 10 years ago, came to terms with it, constantly feeling horrible about it, having it destroy my mental health, but coming to terms with the fact that he wasn't here, I might be experiencing it again. I have no idea if he's going to message me again. I don't. He could message me tomorrow and say, "Hey, I checked myself in. I'm getting the help that I can. Hey, I'm with family right now who are here to support me. Hey, I'm gonna try. Thank you for trying." I don't know. But he did see my message. So I at least know that at the time of recording this, he is still alive. And I did message him. I really hope he gets back to me. I sent him another message as I was doing this. I hope he gets back to me, because I already lost him once, and dealing with feeling like it's my fault, and I really, really can't bear to lose him again. But trying to bring this back full circle again, the reason I'm calling this episode "Death is Not an Exit," not only an amazing Woods of Ypres song, but a factual statement. When you try to take life, we don't know what's on the other side. There's the high probability that it's nothing. It's blackness, no sound, no sight, no touch, no smell, no nothing. Forever. Everything's done. There is the probability that there is heaven and hell and purgatory, any of the other versions of heaven and hell throughout the different religions. There could be something we don't even know about. There could be reincarnation. There's so many possible outcomes that none of us have been able to discover because none of us can come back to life after death. We might be able to come back if our brain stops for a minute or two, or if our heart stops and we're able to get our back working again, but we can never fully come back from the dead. So we don't know that life will get better if we commit suicide. But second is even when you attempt suicide, which is also a lesson I need to take for myself, even when you attempt suicide, let alone follow through on the action, you are hurting every single person that has ever cared about you. Doesn't matter if you're a public figure and people only like you for your work. Doesn't matter if you have family or friends or acquaintances or coworkers, people who see you regularly walk down the street or at the store or whatever the case is. You are hurting everyone that's around you when you try and or successfully complete taking your life. Now, I need to clarify this. That is not the reason to stay alive. Absolutely not. That is not the sole reason to stay alive. If there's people that you realize in your mind that you want to stay around for them. But if you are hurting, just like I talked about in the beginning of the show, at the end of the show, down below, and everything else, if you are hurting, do what you can to survive. Fight what's going on in your mind so you don't have to live with this anymore. It's okay to talk about it. It is okay to reach out to whoever you want to, whoever you trust, to talk about what's going on inside you, inside your mind, in your soul, your gut, your heart, everything. It's okay to talk about it. If you find out that you talked to the wrong person about it, there's others that you can talk to. There's the helplines, there's police, there's doctors, there's friends, there's family. There's the step that I took, which I know helped save my life on more than one occasion, reaching out online to see who my friends were. And in the midst of that, I've lost so many people that I thought were friends. So many people who I thought cared about me. So many people who would rather see me dead, think that I'm just whining, think that I'm lying, think that I'm just complaining without searching for an answer, without trying to look for a better outlook. None of that is true. That was my way of reaching out, and it's different for everybody. There is no clear-cut answer to what to do to get better mentally. It will be different for every single person. Some will have some of the same remedies, be it medication, be it therapy, be it a hospital visit, be it a mental institution stay for a few days to see what's going on in your mind, be it just resting up with friends or family, be it taking a break, taking a sabbatical to work on yourself. If you're in a state that legalizes it, possibly medical marijuana. I mean, it could be taking on a new hobby. It could be exploring something new to enjoy in life. If you're like me and enjoy what I do as that drummer guy, it could be discovering new music. It could be going to concerts. It could be getting a new album. It could be getting a classic album that you never even knew about. One that you've always heard people talk about, but it's like, oh, I'll go check it out sometime. Check it out. Check it out now. After this is done, go check out that album. Find your passion in life. Surround yourself with the people that want to be a part of your life, that care about you, that love you, that want to see the best for you, that will do everything that they can to make sure that you can live the most fulfilling life that you possibly can. And when you're hurting, you find a way to continue on. Be whatever it is, search all possible outcomes until you find something that's getting you through, be it just a millimeter, be it a mile. Every single part of process and progress is a process, but it's progress. And most of all, do it for yourself. Because as I've said so many times, and I need to constantly remind myself of, and a great way to end the show, we don't know that life will get better or get worse as we continue on. But if you end it now, you're saying it can't get better. You're denying yourself the opportunity for it to get better. So prove those bad chemicals in your mind wrong and live the best possible life that you can. That does it for this week's show. That does it for this episode of Something Gives. Thank you so very much for tuning in. Of course, check out Something Gives on Facebook, facebook.com/somethinggivspodcast. If you enjoy what I do and want to see what I do musically, be it talking to bands, the radio show, possibly even drumming again in the future, look up facebook.com/thatonedrummerguy. And of course, keep up to date with everything I'm doing through thatdrummerguy.com. Until next time, This is that drummer guy seeing. See ya. This has been Something Gives with Josh Ronquist. Tune in next time where we continue the discussion of mental health, music, and life in general. Make sure to check out all your favorite social media sites to follow what I do as Josh Ronquist and that drummer guy. And until next time, just remember,
it's always worth it. Hang in there, stay positive. It's worth the fight.
this show was not created by a medical professional. It was done by one man and his guests on the show talking about their struggles with mental illness. If you are having thoughts of suicide or in a state of distress, reaching out is the first step towards safety. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255 or text TALK to 741-741 to text with a trained crisis counselor from the crisis text line for free 24/7. If you know someone who may be at risk or struggling with depression or anxiety or any mental health issues, please follow everything in the description below to help those that are in need.